Welcome to our deep dive, listeners. This time, we're tackling a what if that's been bugging Tolkien fans for ages.
Oh, I know the one.
What if Boromir, son of Gondor, had actually survived Amon Hen?
Ah, yes. We all remember that scene, right? The rings pull just gets too strong. He tries to take it from Frodo.
Then, of course, he kind of redeems himself, defending the hobbits, dies a hero's death, and all that.
Right, a tragic ending. But, what if that arrow hadn't, well, found its mark?
That's what we're exploring today, using Tolkien's own words, of course.
Mm.
How might Boromir living have changed Middle-earth?
That's not just a fun what if, though. It makes us think about Tolkien's big themes, redemption, free will, the whole power corrupts thing. Even Tolkien struggled with changing characters' fates.
Really? How so?
He once said writing a sequel to The Hobbit was hard because he'd already said Bilbo lived happily ever after.
I can see that. It's like trying to rewrite destiny itself. So, starting with Boromir, Tolkien shows his inner struggle, right? But is there anything hinting how he might have reacted to surviving such a, well, turning point?
There's this letter where he talks about Gollum. He says we got to face the fact some folks yield to temptation, appear, damnable.
Right, Gollum was pretty far gone.
Exactly, but Tolkien cautions us against judging him. We're all in the same boat in a way, he says.
So even Gollum, completely enslaved to the ring, there's still hope for him in Tolkien's view.
Absolutely. And he calls Boromir pitiable for falling for the ring's trickery, emphasizes we shouldn't judge, which makes our what if even more interesting.
Because survival, does that equal redemption for Boromir? Or would the ring just keep gnawing at him?
Exactly. Big question. Now think about the Fellowship. They were already falling apart in Amon Hen.
Oh, for sure.
Right, so how would a remorseful Boromir, but alive, change things? Would the others, especially Aragorn, ever trust him again?
Yeah, could they even function as a group with all that baggage?
Well, these messed up fellowships, they pop up a lot in Tolkien. It's like even the best heroes have these internal battles. Think of the dwarves in The Hobbit, how they split up. Boromir staying alive. Could have been similar, right?
Right, distrust, suspicion. Could they even have gotten to Rohan or Gondor?
We got to look at how Tolkien describes places, the strategy. Like the Emyn those are deadly. A maze, practically. Even with Gollum, Frodo and Sam barely made it.
Yeah, treacherous land.
So a fellowship with no unity, bad leadership, they could have been lost there easily.
And then there's Rohan, fighting Saruman's armies. Tolkien writes about those riders so skilled, their horses like snowmane, night-sighted even. Could Boromir's military knowledge have actually helped them?
Yeah.
Or would his past actions cause more problems?
That's where it gets tricky. Knowing Gondorian tactics, Boromir's own strength, could have been huge for Rohan, especially against Saruman. But that attempt to grab the ring, it cast a long shadow, right? Would Theoden even accept his help?
Good point. And what about Gondor itself? Denethor, the steward, he's described as proud, but ends up despairing, right? Sauron manipulates him through the Palantir, those seeing stones.
Right, powerful stuff.
So would Boromir, his own WN son, have challenged that? Could he have rallied the defenders, used his experience to counter Sauron's influence?
Here's where things get really interesting. Remember Faramir, Boromir's brother?
Yeah, the wiser one.
Exactly. Less easily swayed. Now imagine both sons in Minas Tirith.
Wow, a united front.
Could their strength, their love for Gondor, have actually helped Denethor resist Sauron's, his whispers of doom?
It's like a whole different dynamic. But we got to move on. I mean, part of this what if is seeing Boromir in battle.
Oh, absolutely.
Picture him at the Pelennor Fields, fighting alongside Aragorn and the Rohirrim. Would his strength, that ferocity, have tipped the scales in that battle?
We got to look at how Tolkien writes battles, right? He's so detailed. Tactics, movements, all planned out. Like the Rohirrim's charge, those Oliphants, and then you got Boromir's style, powerful shield, sword, but kind of reckless too. Remember Amon Hen?
So, would he be a good strategist or just chaos unleashed?
That's the question. Controlled valor, showing his change. Or back to desperate, almost self-destructive fighting. It's like Boromir's possible redemption would play out right there on the battlefield.
This is getting epic.
Yeah.
But there's more, right? Aragorn's claim to the throne, being Isildur's heir, that's huge for uniting Gondor and Arnor. Would Boromir, a Gondorian, support Aragorn's claim? Or especially if he'd done great things in Rohan, Gondor, would he see himself as a contender?
Now you're getting at the heart of Tolkien's idea of kingship. It's not just bloodlines. It's about being worthy, a true leader. Could a redeemed Boromir see that and set aside any ambition?
Or would power, maybe even a bit of that ring temptation, cloud his judgment?
Right. Then how would all this affect Mount Doom? Would Boromir try to help Frodo and Sam? Or, in a weak moment, grab for the ring again? It all comes back to that, doesn't it? Redemption or ruin. Would his journey lead him to sacrifice, helping Frodo in a way no one else could? Or would those old demons come back, dooming him to repeat his mistakes?
Man, Tolkien loved those tough choices.
He did, and I think he'd leave that answer open, make us really think about what it means to be human?
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
But we gotta talk Gollum. Pitiable Andy Wicked, Tolkien says. Enslaved by the ring, but ends up crucial to destroying it.
Right, totally unexpected.
So if Boromir was still around, would he have seen the danger Gollum was? Could he have actually stopped that betrayal at Mount Doom?
Now we're talking. Boromir, knowing the ring's pull firsthand. Maybe he'd be the only one tuned into Gollum's darkness.
Like a one guy who could have seen it coming.
Exactly. Might even have taken steps to stop that betrayal.
But wait, what if it went the other way? Boromir still wanting the ring. He might be blind to the threat from Gollum, or even see Gollum as like a useful tool.
Oh man, those possibilities. Both fascinating and kind of scary, right?
This is why we deep dive into Tolkien. But before we go full Middle-earth nerd here, back to Gondor for a sec.
Sure.
We were talking about Denethor, having both Boromir and Faramir there. Do you think that could have changed things before the siege even started?
Interesting. Denethor's despair, it came from thinking Gondor was doomed, right? He saw only Sauron's power in the Palantir. Now picture Boromir and Faramir both defying Sauron, believing in Gondor. Could they have given Denethor the hope he needed? The strength?
Would they have been able to change his mind? Convince him to listen to Gandalf or Aragorn?
It's possible. Boromir's last words, he wanted Aragorn to save Gondor. Imagine that regret becoming like a burning need to redeem himself to his father. He might have been the one to break through Denethor's despair.
Remind him that Gondor still had courage.
Right. It's fascinating to think how those two brothers, each representing different parts of Gondor, Boromir the warrior, Faramir the wise one, how that could have changed the resistance.
It's like Tolkien, by taking Boromir away, he kind of gave Gondor this tragic flaw, leaving Denethor open to Sauron.
And that flaw, it spreads outwards. Not just Minas Tirith, but the whole war. Could a stronger Gondor have helped Rohan faster? Maybe even sent troops to Helm's Deep?
And changed that battle.
Exactly. It's like we're seeing a different timeline where hope has more power, challenging Sauron's victory.
That's what I love about these what ifs.
Right.
It's not about changing Tolkien. It's about going deeper with his themes, his characters, the whole messy business of it all.
Well said. But we can't forget Boromir the man. We've talked battles, politics, but what about his journey? If he lived, how would he deal with his past, his desire to be good again?
Yeah, could he ever really forgive himself?
That's the big question, isn't it? And one I think Tolkien would have left open. The human heart's a mystery, right? But we can guess. Would his guilt make him reckless on the battlefield, trying too hard to make up for things? Or would it make him humble, protective, trying to keep others from making the same mistakes?
It's like his survival would be this constant battle, the darkness of his past, against the light of what he could become.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be a great story? Seeing him fight his demons, his wins and losses, trying to be the hero he thought he could be.
I'd read that book. Sadly, Tolkien didn't write it. He gave Boromir that tragic, heroic end, leaving us to wonder.
And those what ifs, they're what makes Tolkien so gripping, They make us explore, ask questions, imagine possibilities that go beyond the maps.
This deep dive's got me wanting to reread The Lord of the Rings again, see Boromir's whole arc with fresh eyes.
Like a wise hobbit once said, it's a dangerous business going out your door, but in Tolkien, it's a danger worth facing.
Totally agree. But before we get lost in Middle-earth for good, let's wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've seen how Boromir living could have changed the Fellowship, the war in Rohan, even Gondor's fate. But there's more to uncover.
Oh, we've only just begun. In our next part, we go even deeper, looking at how Boromir's survival might have changed the whole course of the story, right up to that final showdown with Sauron.
So buckle up. Our journey into Middle-earth's biggest what-if is far from over.
Back again for more Middle-earth what-ifs. Last time, we were all about how Boromir living might have shaken things up, the Fellowship, those big battles.
Right, Rohan, Gondor.
But now, we gotta face the elephant in the room. Or, the ring on the finger, I guess.
Yeah, can't ignore that influence. It's like this corrupting force hanging over everything in Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. And Boromir, maybe more than anyone else, feels that shatter, He's tempted, he falls for it. then sacrifices himself to protect Frodo, protect the ring from his own weakness.
Heavy stuff. But imagine he'd survived that. Would he be stuck in the ring's darkness forever?
That's what makes you think, right? Tolkien describes the ring's power as insidious, almost like a virus, Gets in your mind, your soul. Even Gandalf and Galadriel were afraid of it.
Powerful stuff. But
Wow.
you're saying maybe Boromir, having experienced that, could actually HLP others resist.
Think about it. He's tasted that allure, seen what it does. He could become this, voice of warning.
Instead of giving in, he becomes the example of how to fight back.
Right. Imagine him as a mentor to Frodo, sharing his struggles, teaching him about the ring.
That's a twist.
Hmm.
His failure at Amon Hen, if he truly regretted it,
Yeah.
could that be what changes him? Makes him the one who understands the ring best.
Exactly. Tolkien's all about second chances, redemption through suffering. Boromir living could have been that story, going from tempted by power to guarding against it.
Wow, that'd mirror the whole fight against Sauron. But hold on. Practically speaking, if Boromir's there, the Fellowship's journey changes completely, right?
Yeah, no kidding. They might not even reach Lothlorien. Never mind Rohan or Gondor.
Huge implications.
Think about what they'd miss. Galadriel's guidance, those gifts. No file of light for Frodo, no elven cloaks.
Those were vital. Frodo and Sam would have it even tougher without them.
For sure. Plus, strategically. No Lothlorien means weaker alliances, maybe no alliance between elves and men at all. Remember, Galadriel was key to that, bringing everyone together against Sauron.
It's like a domino effect, changing the whole balance of power in Middle-earth.
Absolutely. Then there's Rohan and Gondor. Could they stand up to Sauron without Boromir? He was a fighter, a leader. Him missing from those battles might have been the end.
And what about Aragorn becoming king? Could he unite Gondor and Arnor without Boromir's backing? Especially if Boromir was now this respected figure, the guy who stood up to the ring.
That's where Tolkien's idea of kingship is so important. It's not just family, it's about proving yourself, being the right person to lead. Now imagine Boromir, maybe even a hero for resisting the ring. Would he step aside for Aragorn? See that it was his destiny?
Or would it be a power struggle? Two guys wanting the throne, weakening the good guys. Man, the drama.
Right, that's what makes this what if so awesome. We're right in the middle of Tolkien's big ideas, power, redemption, how choices change everything.
Okay, but Mount Doom. Can't forget that. Gollum's the one who destroys the ring, right? By accident, but still.
Yeah.
What if Boromir had lived? Could he have changed that? Stopped Gollum or found another way to get rid of the ring?
See, now we're into Tolkien's idea of free will. He believed people make choices that shape their destiny and the world around them. So picture this. Boromir, after all his struggles, he's wiser now. He goes with Frodo and Sam to Mount Doom.
Do you think he'd see how obsessed Gollum was? Could he protect Frodo from that final betrayal?
It's possible. Having felt the rings pull himself, he might recognize the signs in Gollum, maybe even stops him physically, keeps Gollum from taking the ring.
But what if Boromir, being there, actually saved Gollum? Remember, Frodo almost kills him a few times, thinking it's the only way to destroy the ring.
Wow, you're right. What if Boromir, having found mercy himself, convinces Frodo to spare Gollum, says even Gollum deserves a chance?
That would show how much Boromir had changed. And who knows, maybe not killing Gollum. That could change everything too.
See, endless possibilities. And that's the beauty of these what-ifs. They challenge us, make us think differently, help us go deeper into Tolkien's world.
My head's spinning. We've covered so much, but it feels like we've only just started.
We have. And as we wrap up this part, what strikes me is how complex Tolkien's world is. Little choices, tiny events, they can have huge consequences.
That's a big takeaway for me. Our lives, just like these stories, they're shaped by the choices we make, the paths we take,
Yeah.
and maybe a bit of luck along the way.
Well put. And as we go to our final part, I'm really excited, to see what other truths we might uncover.
If you're ready to go even deeper into this what if, join us next time. We'll tackle the biggest question of all. Could Boromir, redeemed, have actually helped destroy the ring, become the unsung hero of Middle-earth? Wow, what a journey through Middle-earth this has been. We started with the Fellowship falling apart, then Rohan, Gondor, all these big events.
It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? And now we're at the heart of it all. Could a changed Boromir or redeemed Boromir have actually played a part in the ring's destruction?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Remember, Tolkien loves to surprise us. Little choices, big consequences. Gollum in the ring, perfect example.
Okay, so let's say Boromir goes through it all, the trials, the victories, and comes out on the other side. He sees past the ring's tricks, really gets what it is. How would that change things at Mount Doom?
Tolkien gives us hints of what Boromir could be, even at the very end. Defending the hobbits, fighting like crazy, giving his life to save them.
Yeah, he went out like a true hero.
Exactly. So imagine that courage, that instinct, focused on protecting Frodo's mission, shielding him from everything, even the ring's pull on Frodo himself.
So instead of being tempted at Mount Doom, he's actually Frodo's guardian, the last line of defense.
Exactly. He might see how dangerous Gollum is, how obsessed he's getting. Maybe he steps in, physically stops Gollum from taking the ring back. Or maybe understanding the ring's powers so well, he sees a way that Frodo, in his state, just doesn't.
What do you mean, a different way?
Think about Frodo at the cracks of doom. He's exhausted, the ring's got him in its grip, he can't destroy it. But Boromir, standing there, having faced his own demons and won, maybe he can guide Frodo, remind him what's at stake, Middle-earth's fate and all that.
Like he's the voice of reason and all that madness at Mount Doom.
Right. Or even, and this is a big one, maybe Boromir's experience lets him do what Frodo can't. Take the ring himself. Not because he wants it, but because he sees Frodo can't handle it anymore.
Whoa, hold on. Could he actually destroy it, though? Wouldn't he fall under its power just like at Amon Hen?
But remember, we're talking about a changed Boromir. He's fought his darkness, become someone new. Maybe in that moment, sacrificing everything, he'd find the strength to throw the ring in the fire. Not for glory, but to save the world.
That's a powerful image. The ultimate redemption, right? Sacrifice, putting others first. All those big Tolkien themes.
And wouldn't it be the perfect ending to Boromir's story? From wanting power for himself to conquering it? Not by force, but by understanding, by compassion.
It changed how we see Boromir completely. Put him up there with Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, one of Middle-earth's greatest heroes.
And that's what I love about these what-ifs. They make us see characters, stories in a whole new light. Like Tolkien left these possibilities hidden for us to find.
It shows how powerful Tolkien's world is. It keeps inspiring new ideas, new ways of looking at things.
As we wrap up our deep dive, I'm just amazed by how deep and complex it all is. Tolkien's creation, I mean.
Me too. It's been quite a journey.
One last thing before we go, a question for you to think about. Tolkien wrote that even the wisest men of Gondor, like Faramir, spoke a language that came from elves. Shows how connected everything is, right? So if Boromir's fate was tied to so many others, could one little change really alter the grand plan that Tolkien set in motion?
That's a big one. Goes beyond Middle-earth, even. Free will versus destiny. We all think about that in our own lives.
We do. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. Keep exploring Tolkien's world, all the endless possibilities.
Until next time, folks. May your journeys be full of wonder, and may your what-ifs lead you to some amazing discoveries.